Takes a sec just because Chromebooks. But
I don't have 7 o'clock yet.
yeah, I was gonna say it's not kicked off yet. The
wonder-
chat's open, but
Well, if it's
1 minute to go.
1 minute, yeah.
that must be the deal. Interesting.
Hang on, everybody. We're about to go.
There we
live
go.
on YouTube.
It's starting.
Is it starting?
Yep.
Are we on?
Yep.
All right. So, did Woolworths start out as a dollar store? Are a whole bunch of doctors about to become entrepreneurs? And how much is it worth to claim that you've invented butter chicken? Well, these and other stories we're going to be talking about and kind of walking our way through on tonight's episode. Tonight's the February edition of Inventor Friday. With me tonight, I have Evan Knowles.
Hello, everybody.
Evan, tell us who you are, what you're all about.
Yeah, so Evan Knowles, I'm a software entrepreneur. I grew up in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and I'm now in Lexington, Kentucky. I attended the University of Kentucky where I dropped out to build a software startup that did well, and then I've been doing that ever since. And so I've just exited another startup in November of last year, and I'm doing another one. So I can't help myself. But my latest one is an AI product, of course, which is timely.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
Hey, hi. Wow. That's yeah, that's going to be super cool.
Yeah, happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Also with me tonight is the ever-present Leo York.
Hey, glad to be here. Gonna be a fun one this time.
And
Oh.
Leo, you want to tell them who you are, what you do for those on
Sure.
YouTube that might not know?
I'm a copywriter, podcaster, and VP of Inventors Network, and it's 3 hats, but they're fun hats.
All right, George, you're up next.
Hi. I'm clicking the buttons to change the cameras tonight.
So if the cameras mess up, it's George's
That's my
fault.
fault.
So we've got another person that is on their way in. We'll introduce them just as they get here when they make their grand entrance. So anyway, tonight we are going to start talking about. Well, let me do this first. I want to share my screen, and we are going to. Where is it? Let me find it. Here we go. It's not the right place. There we go. All right. One of our sponsors tonight is the company that helps us stay in this building, and that is one of our own, Bennett Gatto. Bennett came out with a product. He's got a company called Total Health Works, and one of his products is the Total PT Connect. And it elevates the patient experience, optimize outcomes through remote patient monitoring and working to keep you healthy online. Bennett started out with this as a solution for people with Parkinson's disease, and it works so well with people with neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and MS. He has now expanded it for you and me. So if it helps people with Parkinson's, imagine what it will do for you. He does one-on-one coaching sessions, daily health monitoring. They've got an amazing platform that was developed in partnership with the National Science Foundation. And it is just a really, really, really cool product. If you're interested in learning more about it, because we can all improve our brain and physical health, just check them out at totalptconnect.com. So that's where we're at. We are in our what I like to call the Total Health Work Studio. Also, you want to check out our website, and that is kyinventors.org. If you have not seen that, we've got a lot of stuff going on. You can check out swag. We have online courses. We have meeting replays. We have meetings like tonight. And we help a lot of people in a lot of really different ways. And so you definitely want to check that out. And that is kyinventors.org. So all right, with that.
Just have a pause real quick.
Yep.
Now try saying something.
Okay, how about now?
Is
Is that better? Are we getting feedback?
Yes, a little bit.
I wasn't hearing that. I was talking about, I thought there was a train outside.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, we have train and a feedback, folks, so.
That was what was yeah, working
No,
up.
I was talking about the train.
Yeah, no, there
It's
is.
just the train. All right, so let's see. First thing I want to talk about is the story about Woolworths, and this is an invention in history. So in February 22nd, actually, 1879, Frank Woolworth founded the Woolworths Five and Dime. And I thought this was an interesting story. It's in June 1879. So I guess in February 1905 is when he actually formally incorporated. But he opened a store in Utica, New York, and it was a 5 and dime store, which means everything costs like a nickel or a dime. And though he tried, his first attempt in Utica, New York was a failure. But he did not give up. He tried again, this time in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and to much success. Now, one thing I thought that was really kind of interesting with this is that what in 1879, what was 5 cents worth? Well, it was worth about $1.53. So that got me to thinking of, does that mean Woolworth was like the first dollar store?
I can see it.
So is that where, everything's a dollar?
Okay.
So I don't know. What do you think, guys?
Sounds pretty accurate. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to have a pricing model like that. It's really good branding. You have decent margins, even though everything looks crazy cheap. When I was in Japan, they had 100 yen stores, which is the same principle. So I think there's something inherently universal about it, and he was probably just the first to capitalize on it. Yeah. What do you think, Evan?
Well, I'm curious. It seems like this started in a pretty big market. Is that what I'm understanding here?
Yeah, Utica, New York, and then Lancaster.
Is it Utica, George? You would know.
This is a Utica, New York.
Utica? Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how you say it. I've never known how you say it.
They used to make beer, Utica Club beer,
Ah,
Oh,
shotguns.
Oh.
Utica shotgun.
ah,
I got one.
nice.
Well, it's interesting. I'd be curious how
Shotguns and beer.
I'm curious how the demographic has changed over time. Now you see the dollar stores kind of move their way towards rural areas versus in the urban areas. It's, Whole Foods. It's really nice,
yeah.
high quality stuff. So it's kind of probably interesting how population and demographics change from urban to rural over time.
There's a phenomenon there should be a word for that. 'Cause that's super common. Something becomes popularized, and because it's novel, it caters to early adopters, which are usually a more urban demographic.
Yeah.
And then as it sort of filters through, it becomes more known for like rural communities.
Yeah, and I would say
yeah.
the dollar store and the Dollar General
Right.
concept is maybe one of those.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of brings up an interesting thing. I just saw this recently. I saw it as a news item not too long ago, and that's that the Dollar General store, who you'll see in every single corner, pretty much of rural Appalachia or rural lots of places.
Sure.
The funny story, I've got a couple of nieces, and they want to go out and see their grandparents, my wife's mom and dad, and they gave them directions, and they said just turn right at the dollar store. And when they got there, they were all frustrated. They said there was 17 dollar stores within Cincinnati and where you all live. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. But the story I heard was that they were going to start introducing fresh produce and things like you'd see. And I thought, well, that's really neat. So I was coming back from Tuesday. I was coming back from a conference in Chillicothe, Ohio. And there was a dollar store. And I just pulled in. I thought, I'm just going to look. And sure enough, they had bananas, they had apples, they had fresh vegetables.
Yeah.
It wasn't what I'm used to seeing with a dollar
I
store.
think they're increasingly becoming under pressure because there's this concept of a food desert.
Yep.
And when you kind of target rural, more I wouldn't say impoverished, but lower income areas, and you're not providing them access to healthy food because you're trying to maintain either margins or good inventory and potentially taking advantage of people, then I could see a
Yeah.
case where they got under enough pressure that they have to start carrying healthy food.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's definitely a problem in Kentucky talked about frequently is the healthy food. There's deserts
Yeah.
where we can't
Oh,
can't get to it unless you drive an hour plus.
Yeah.
We've been helping high schoolers in Appalachia, and that's been a really common solution, or well, a really common problem that they actively seek solutions for.
Yeah.
Is food deserts.
Yeah.
Because it hits common.
Yeah. So instead of Twinkies and
Tasty cakes.
tasty cakes, yeah, I'm trying to think of what the
man.
hostess cake version of.
I remember getting tasty cakes from a dollar store one time, and I was on prednisone. And prednisone, you want to eat everything anyway. And that was the best thing I ever ate in my life. The combination of calories and flipping steroid.
Oh gosh. So yeah, you don't know what life was like in 1879, but I can't imagine it being the concept of the dollar store, except yeah, I don't know what is weirder to me is that they had a dollar store in 1879, or that 5 cents was about $1.50
Right.
in 1879. So,
Well, and that's getting worse and worse with
Yep.
inflation these
oh,
days.
right,
Exactly.
right. Yeah, it's probably gone up since last week. So all right. Well, let's.
So, do you ever hear it called 5 and 10?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we used to call
5 and
it.
10.
The
5 and 10.
not the 5 and dime.
Really?
5 and 10.
5 and 10.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did they and I'm guessing this is a northeast thing.
It's a New York
The
thing.
New
Yeah, we
York
had
thing.
Woolworths there, we had Woolworths in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we called it 5 and 10.
Interesting.
Did you call dimes dimes, or did you call dimes
Yeah.
tens?
No, dime and dime. But I think on the front of the store, I think it says as
5
the
and
number
10?
5
5
and the number 10.
Makes sense.
Doesn't say
Yeah.
5 and dime on the
Right.
store. And that's why I was thinking about
Ah,
what the stores look like. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's what it said.
no, that makes sense. Really, 5 and dime, it sounds catchy, but it's also really inconsistent. You're literally talking about 2 units of currency with different terms.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally get it.
I can remember there was a chain of stores called Ben Franklin.
Hmm.
And this is gonna tell how old I am.
Is everything $100?
Ben Franklin stores, but I think they called them 5 and 10 or 5 and dime. And but things weren't, I always thought it was weird. I thought there's nothing in here for 5 cents. So maybe it was an old carryover, but I think that was the store that Sam Walton worked in that gave him the idea for Walmart.
Interesting.
So
Huh.
yeah. All right, let's move on here. So February 1st, 1983, Gordon Matthew files a patent for voice message exchange. He was called the father of voicemail. So patent number 4,371,752, issued on February 1st, 1983, and he made his fortune and inadvertently caused roughly half the developed world to love him and the other half to hate him passionately. So he called his invention the voice message exchange. And before that, and this was kind of interesting, before there was such a thing as voicemail, the conventional solution to efficient handling of telephone communications in businesses was the message center. So message center, message desk, centralized manual answering service inside a company staffed by a few operators who answered all incoming phone calls. So I can't imagine. I guess you're calling the operator and leaving a message for
That's
so.
very strange. Yeah.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
little surreal.
yeah. He came up with the idea. He was on a business trip and he became frustrated that he was playing telephone tag while trying to contact the office. And after the incident, he mentioned to his wife that he needed to invent a telephony system where people can send each other recorded messages. So, how many times have you just, you've had some frustration in your life and you're like, you know what, there really needs a better way to do this. But he actually acted on it, did something with it. So what do y'all think? Is voicemail, love it or hate it?
I'm glad it exists. There's times where it's useful, but 90% of voicemail I get, it's never good. It's almost never good. It's usually terrible, frankly. But still, I'm impressed that he came up
Spam?
with that. Impressed that he took a concept like that and actually made it feasible. Sorry, you were saying, Gina?
Is it the spam voice messages that irritate me? Or yeah, okay, yeah, me too.
That's the deal. Yeah. 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 If it's, hey, how's it going? Sorry you missed your call. That's like fine. But if it's, hey, this is somebody you've never met and you need to check your account because, we sent you a creepy link that's 18 million characters long and you should believe us when we say we're Microsoft. That's the frustrating bit.
I think spam calls has ruined phones.
It's damaged it for sure. And now, of course, there's spam text, spam email. I actually will say I prefer spam calls because you can screen them to spam text. That's actually the worst of the bunch.
You can't block.
You can't block, and it's usually the most obnoxious stuff. The voicemail, they're at least trying to be polite. The spam the texts are just obnoxious. Yeah. What about you, Evan?
I'd say, I mean, I probably grew up when text messaging was a lot more pervasive, and rather than leave a message on somebody's phone, I would just text them and say, hey, I tried to call, blah, blah, blah. So I think the utility of voicemail is really when I was coming up with the phone, was probably already gone by that point. I never leave voicemail. I can't remember the last time I left a voicemail for anybody. I just texted
Yeah.
and said, hey, call me back.
Exactly.
I wonder if this will herald the end of voicemails. Just I'm just gonna
That's
text
how
you
archaic
instead.
it is. Yeah.
Now you can leave a voice memo in text. You can just it records the voice memo and send that.
Yeah.
So that's another version of it. But to my
Yeah.
point,
Voice
you're
to text.
texting it versus
Yeah.
leaving it as a voicemail.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that will. You'd have to think it's going to morph again.
Yeah, probably with all this AI and VR and AR stuff, it'll be a new way to deliver it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare right there. You're driving and you got smart glasses and all of a sudden some looming avatar enters your field of vision to tell you that an extended warranty. Yeah.
Oh,
Just
well, we've got.
Make sure that there's brevity with those text messages. That would be appreciated on all fronts because
Definitely.
the verbal novels that people will leave in text messaging can be
But
incredibly.
yeah, if somebody sends you a whole bunch, the proper response is just okay. Ruin their whole day.
It's a conversation, people.
Oh.
Pick
Well,
up the
guess what,
phone.
everybody? We've got our other special guest is here. We have with us tonight Jim Francis, patent attorney. Jim, tell us who you are, what you're all about.
As John said, Jim Francis, patent attorney, Francis Law in Lexington. We do patents, trademarks, all intellectual property, even litigation, although I don't like litigation.
What's your favorite part of the practice world?
Helping people turn their visions into something. I love seeing stuff show up on Amazon or on the shelf and knowing I had a small part to play in that.
Yeah. Very relatable. That's the best.
How cool is that?
That's the fun part.
Yeah. And the worst part is litigation.
There is no good part to litigation, even the paychecks.
Oh, well, we're really glad to have you tonight. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks for being here. All right, let's see. we have anything in the chat, Leo, on?
Just a little back and forth, but nothing that we
Okay.
need to circle.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, let's see, let's move on to the next item here. We've got, let's see, where was that? Here we go. All right, everybody. On February 14th, yeah. Now that was a few months ago. On February 14th, 1876, Alexander Graham Bell and Elisha Gray both filed patents for the telephone. Let me pull this up and share my screen. I'll show
On the
you
same day.
the article on the same
That's
day, no
nuts.
less.
Sounds fishy to me.
That's fishy.
So on the morning of February 14th, Alexander Graham Bell handed a patent application. Just hours later on the same day, Elisha Gray made a new application at the same office for an apparatus for precisely the same purpose.
Oh my
Mm.
gosh.
Now, what I really found interesting about this story was much further down, though, that and it was actually a technology historian mentioned this. He said Elisha Gray had the disadvantage because, one kind of took off, one didn't. And Elisha Gray had the disadvantage of being an expert. Gray was so wrapped up in the telegraphy, maybe that's how it's pronounced, industry, and its way of perceiving the world, that he was incapable of seeing the potential in a completely new type of system. And even Western Union was equally incapable when Bell offered to sell him his telephone patent at the end of 1876. So that's interesting. Actually, was trying to sell it to Western Union, and they told him, "We are not interested in a scientific toy." So yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, I'd always heard that. I think I even heard his father-in-law tell Bell it was just a toy. He said, "This is just a toy." So so we kind of went from voicemail to the invention of the telephone. This is actually the actual patent here,
Yeah.
which is kind of neat. I guess that looks pretty high tech for 18.
Well, what's really
76.
interesting is like his idea for it was people could share music with each other. You could have like music notes transmitted. And again, it sounds like a toy, but it's like one of the most popular apps right now started with a similar premise, except it used video instead of just audio, and that's TikTok. So
That's true.
it's funny, you can't underestimate whimsy and toys, but in this case, the world wasn't ready.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very true. It really, really is.
That's why it usually comes down to somebody with the vision has to see the potential.
Yeah.
And that's also why experts have a hard time.
That's true, because they're kind of,
They got that scope
Yeah.
group going, yeah.
because what they were saying in that article was Elisha Gray was actually, he was steeped in the telegraph industry. And so that's all he knew was telegraph. So he thought in those terms and in that way.
You're seeing it now too with how quickly AI is changing industries. A lot of people aren't going to adopt AI because they're so used to their own ways of doing it, and they're going to turn around and a competitor is going to be there ready to take over their market.
Yeah.
And that happens in every technological shift.
This is why some even large companies like Amazon are abandoning projects, because there are 15-year-olds out there who can surpass what they've been doing for 10 years.
Wow.
Because they're not bound by the idea they can't do something
Right.
or it won't work.
Sure.
If you can shed that, you can do amazing things. It's hard to shed it, especially the older you get.
Or the bigger company you work for.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons Amazon has abandoned the Alexa line of things, is because they can buy stuff on the market that's better. And it's made by children or people in their 20s. It's insane.
Yeah, Alexa's a great example. the underlying technology behind Alexa is no longer relevant with large language models. They would have to swap out whatever they're using, some kind of knowledge graph for a large language model. Alexa's pretty stupid if you use it these days compared to the Chat GPTs of the world. Once you kind of get that experience, and then you turn around and you try to use an Alexa, you're thinking this thing is stupid.
Clunky.
Yeah,
No,
clunky.
Wow.
absolutely.
Anyone that thinks AI is not going to become the thing, it's probably the same person who thought the internet would never take off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting. Well, speaking of that very thing, let's throw out this next news item. So former Apple CEO compares, get to it. Looking at 1876, we're fast forwarding to now. Former Apple CEO compares the extraordinary new product of the Vision Pro to the invention of the iPhone. So this was kind of interesting. He was liking it to that. So I'm not sure if that's fluff, and I guess everybody's kind of seen the new Vision Pro. I keep seeing this one. I don't know if it's really a meme or not, but it's like
But I know
this is what it
looks.
looks. This is what they're advertising, and then this is what it looks like. And it's like you can't see their eyes or their face or
What I've seen is there's a funny image of a fella. He's in a coffee shop. He's got it on, and he's scrolling through his news feed. And it's like, wow, $500 for basically having a tablet, and you can't even see the people around you. So I'm a little more skeptical. I think VR is going to make some great strides, but I just don't know about Vision Pro being the real, breaking the mold kind of tech.
can't shake the feeling that it ought to come with a snorkel.
Yeah.
It just looks like what you go snorkeling in. That's I remember in 2010 when Steve Jobs came out with the iPhone, and there was a lot of people that panned it. A lot of people said, "No, this is crazy. Nobody's going to use this. This is not."
Right.
Music in your pocket, and he was calling it. He said it's a music player, it's a phone, and it's I forget what was the third thing. He
Access to the internet, maybe.
Yeah, that might have been it.
Communication, yeah.
Yeah. But in just a few years, it's over.
Yeah.
Does this compare to that though? What do y'all think?
I hope not. I don't want to walk into a room and see 30. I mean, it's bad enough everybody can't stand like 5 minutes of talking without looking at their phone. But just imagine like a bunch of people just, I don't know, there's something almost veal calf about that. What do you think, Evan?
I think the form factor of it will change over time. The actual device that they released recently, they had the patent, I think, was filed 7 years ago.
Ah,
So they've probably already got some kind of new device that's much smaller. I would hope it get to contacts lenses size. I mean, I would think it would have to for mass adoption or sunglasses. So
Yeah.
Facebook has a partnership with Ray-Ban where they have AR sunglasses. So Facebook has had this technology out, not on this, not to this level that Apple just released, but Facebook kind of did put out feelers on AR
yeah.
a while back. And so I would assume that, yes, now it's very clunky. And to your point, it feels like there should be a snorkel. But I would say in the near future, I would say within the next maybe 5 years, it's going to be much smaller and not as clunky and disruptive to your everyday life, I would
Makes
guess.
sense. I do think AR is ultimately going to be a ubiquitous part of life in the very near future. So,
I would think so. And I think it's just a matter of how do you make it small enough that it's not disruptive.
right.
And really, I think that you have to do it in stages because it's a hardware problem to get things small enough to where you can take down the form factor. And I think you got to have iteration stages. And so they probably know that this one is not going to be the one that takes off, but it's going to be the proof of concept. And then as the general public gets used to it, they'll start to decrease the size of the components so they can make it less intrusive.
Wonder if this will be kind of like what they describe in Crossing the Chasm, where you've got your early adopters.
That's
and
exactly right.
they're gonna all be wearing those in coffee shops, and they'll look ridiculous, but they won't care.
That is exactly. I'd say that's exactly what they're doing. But Facebook, in a way, tried to jump over that, and I think that Facebook's all about how do you get mass distribution and open it up for the largest audience. Hence why Facebook's free, Instagram's free because they have an advertising model, and the way that they're approaching Oculus and their AR is making it super affordable so they can have a lot of users. Apple's taking the opposite, so we'll see which one of those wins, and it's going to come down to kind of the evolution of the hardware components.
Yeah, no, that's a great observation.
I wonder if Apple will do what they used to do, and because I've been an Apple guy forever, and I've always loved it. I always loved it because it was intuitive. After Steve Jobs was no longer there, the second time he passed away, I just noticed it's not as user friendly as it used to be. It's not the one I remember, or maybe I'm just being nostalgic. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't know. I didn't. I got an iPhone.
You're not an Apple person.
No, I'm an Apple person.
Oh, okay.
No, I got a MacBook and an iPhone. But my user experience has always been great, and I didn't experience it. Any Apple experiences prior to the iPhone. Are you alluding to that you had used prior?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm telling on my age.
Yeah.
You merely adopted Apple. He was
I-
born in. molded.
Yeah, my first phone was not an iPhone though. It was some kind of Samsung. It wasn't a touchscreen.
Interesting.
But then my next phone was an iPhone. I was probably, I don't know, freshman in high school when I probably got my first iPhone.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell what
And I
I
haven't
had in
turned
high
back
school.
I haven't turned back then. I'm always going to be an Apple guy.
I mean, I got sold on it, and it just worked. I didn't have to
Yeah.
think about it. I didn't have to like do anything. I mean, I could figure it out.
Yeah.
And plus I did a lot of graphic art kind of stuff and brochures and literature, and so that just always seemed easier to work with for me. Now, if I was doing that today, I'd probably just be using Canva. But that's, back then that was sort of the what everybody used. Everybody that had a print shop had an Apple.
Yeah, it was interesting how they targeted creatives.
Yeah,
and they still
they
do.
did.
And I think that served them very well
Yeah.
from a go-to-market perspective with any of their products, but also I
Right.
think just the evolution of their user experiences and the elegance of their design stems from their target audience. And I think that
Yep.
works its way to what you made the point of, which is when you target the early adopters of good design, that works its way to people that, they can just download it or buy an iPhone and immediately use it without any education.
Yeah.
So the focus so heavily on design versus, nice
Yeah.
features or customization like
Yeah.
Android. It's well known that iOS is a better user experience than Android, but people like Android because of its customization and all of the unique features of it.
Yeah.
But again,
Well, it's like the MP3 player when it first came out. It was clunky, and came out a long time before the iPod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when the iPod came out, oh, that was cool. Oh, anybody could do that.
exactly.
Jim, are you an Apple or a PC?
I'm a PC guy.
Same. I'm not in the
But-
cult either.
I grew up in an R&D environment, and you didn't have Apple software to run the systems we did.
Sure.
Yeah. Makes perfect
Just a
sense.
different environment. Yeah,
But some of it Apple failed, I think, in terms of Keynote, like that never took over PowerPoint. I tried to convert to Keynote because I'm a huge Mac person myself, but that and their notes, I don't know. I'm curious what you guys thought about that because everyone still uses PowerPoint at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm the same way. I tried it a couple of times, Keynote, and I can't remember what the other ones were called now. They were trying to replace the app,
Office.
Office,
Yeah.
the Office.
Trying too hard.
Yeah, trying too hard. That's exactly. I think that's apt. They were just trying too hard. And I don't know if anybody tried Apple TV.
Uh,
I have, yeah.
I know people who love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely can't stand
I've never
trying.
so I have no idea.
I can't stand trying to navigate it. It is the
Mm.
most, every time I try to get into it, I'm like, this is the most counterintuitive
Oh. See,
way
that's how
to
I feel
find
about Disney
anything.
Plus. I use Netflix and Hulu, and then I got Disney Plus last, and I was like, this is terrible. Like, it doesn't let you look at episodes; it automatically auto plays the second you check it out. It's
Oh, well,
frustrating.
I hate that with all
Yeah.
of them. But the autoplay thing. Somebody ought to come up with an autoplay killer app, I think.
There we go.
That would be, talk about a good invention. So, all right. Well, I'll tell you what, let's move on to the next one. And so, well, let me ask this first, before we leave the vision pro. Do you think Tim Cook was right, or do you think?
I think time will tell, but I'm a little bit optimistic.
Okay.
Especially after Evan's insight, I'm more optimistic than I was even. Oh, and also before we move on, hey Joe's in the YouTube audience.
I'm just not sure if it's gonna be the next iPhone or the next Segway.
Yeah,
there you go.
that's a good way to
Yeah.
put it.
I mean, you can hype things up to the point that the experience doesn't match the marketing, and
Mhm.
you can kill the product line.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I forgot about the Segway. One of the,
Everybody forgot about this.
one of the
Unless you park
best
downtown.
books.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's ever read this one, but because it's had a couple of different names, and I think it's still in print.
Hmm.
But I think one version of it was called Codename Ginger, and the other name of the book was oh crud. The version I read, that's the one I can't remember the name of. But it's about the Segway. It was this journalist
Yeah.
that followed was it Dean King? The guy that invented the Segway.
Sure.
He followed him, the team,
Hmm.
the fundraising thing. He followed all the way to the crash and burn.
Hmm.
And it's one of the best business books ever.
I gotta check that out.
So
Huh.
I'll have to find it. We'll put it in a post somewhere.
Let's say, what's the title? You're telling us
I-
it's the best book ever, and we don't have a title.
But I can't remember the title. No, one of the versions, if you Google Codename Ginger, I'm sure it'll come up.
Okay.
There's another name for it, completely escapes me. Hopefully
Mhm.
before the end of the evening, I'll think of it and we'll figure it out. Or Leo will probably
Reinventing the wheel.
Reinventing the Wheel. Thank you. That's it. That's the one I read. But it's the same book. It's just like I guess one title didn't
Yeah,
work.
that's really weird. I've never seen a book go with a full rebrand like that.
Yeah,
Art, everything, just the
Mhm.
same.
Oh,
the
completely.
author name. Weird.
completely. But it is a really, really, really good story. I highly recommend it. So, all right, now for something completely different. This next news item is the inventor of butter chicken will be decided by the courts. And here is the here, let's find the actual one. Actually, I skipped over. We'll come back to that. But let's
No
let's
worries.
talk about butter chicken because this is pretty funny. Come on, guys, we're getting there.
No worries.
Here we go. So the inventor of butter chicken will be decided by the courts. The courts don't care who makes the best butter chicken, just who made it first. Because Morty Mahal, which I'm going to butcher these names, I know, a legendary staple of Delhi cuisine, sued rival restaurant chain Dairy. I'm not even going to pronounce. I'm not even going to try that one. If Leo knows it, he can blurt it out. Yeah, he's better at those than I am. Hoping to put an end to its claim of inventing butter chicken. Now, here's the thing I thought was hilarious. In a 2,752 page lawsuit, I see Jim over there smiling from ear to ear.
The billable hours.
Yeah, just think of the billable hours. Oh, that will be heard by the Delhi High Court in May that captured India's attention. Modi Mahal says it wants $240,000 in bragging rights for creating the iconic dish.
Oh,
So they're going to, okay, two things about this. One is, if you win, does that mean the other restaurant can't make butter chicken?
It just means they can't claim to be the originator.
It's bragging rights.
Yeah.
It's basically just bragging rights.
Wow.
That's what I had wondered. And I mean, is this claim worth a 2,752 page lawsuit?
The attorneys will always tell you yes,
Of course they will.
but no, it's not worth it. And if they're only going after $240,000, even in India, that's not worth what they're paying.
Mm,
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one other thought on this then. Do you think maybe this was a marketing ploy?
I was about to say that. I was gonna say this is some really good publicity.
I mean, it makes me want butter chicken.
So I would agree. I think it's more of a PR play than, I mean, it happens all the time, you know, made
Yeah.
up stories that are really just there to bring light to something. That's what this is, I would guarantee.
Oh,
It reminds me when the gas stations would have the gas war and they put like a little sign
sure.
out. Do you remember those?
oh yeah.
So they put this little sign out saying gas war, we're cutting our, and actually they were either owned by the same guy or they were just both in cahoots.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, you wonder if maybe they're both just promote. Oh, we're gonna let them have butter chicken, but we we settled out of court or something.
Yeah, we're over here on the other side of the world talking about it, so they did a good job.
They did a good job.
Yeah.
They really did. That is wild. Well, let me skip back over to where I was before because this is an interesting story. And this is about healthcare. So there's something new called direct primary care and direct primary care doctors. And that is apparently, well, I kind of already knew it was on the rise. But it is it's not butter chicken either. It's got nothing to do with butter chicken. Here we go. So rapidly growing direct primary care model offers personal attention. And if you're not familiar with this, I've kind of had a ringside seat to this for actually the last year or so. So there's this growing number of doctors out here now that are getting completely fed up. They're working for like a big corporate healthcare, whatever, and they are, and I've literally heard this. I've heard them being told that you now can only see a patient for 6 minutes, and you have to run on to the next one. And they're like a factory farm. And so all these doctors just got fed up with it. They got tired of it, and they said, guess what? I'm going to go back into private practice, and I'm just and forget this insurance business. I'm just going private pay. And that was kind of the burgeoning direct primary care market. So we're seeing that a lot. And again, I'm working with some folks in the kind of that whole medical world now for a little bit again. And so I get to kind of see some of this. But DPC physicians were independent practitioners who charge patients a simple flat monthly fee. In return, they are available anytime because most of these folks, they have smaller patient loads. And I've actually had the opportunity recently to be able to go into a number of DPC care or functional medicine care docs, or even some concierge medicine. They're all kind of vary just a little bit. Some of them are hybrid insurance and private pay. Some of them are different things, but they are, I mean, the atmosphere of walking into a normal run-of-the-mill doctor's office and the atmosphere of walking in one of these DPC or concierge places day and night. It's like everything's relaxed. You hear a babbling brook in the background. I mean, it's just it's like everything's calm and peaceful. And where everything else, it's like, you feel like there ought to be a siren going off, and it's in factory machinery going. So So it's really kind, and there's even I know in the physical therapy world, and they are there's this whole organization now. It's called Uncaged Physicians. So, and it's like, okay, you were just kind of caged up. You didn't have this freedom to do these things, and now you do. So anyway, it's a real fascinating thing, but I'm just wondering, is this going to turn doctors into entrepreneurs? Is this going to give them kind of that entrepreneurial? Uh, is it going to change them? Is it going to kind of make them more entrepreneurial or not?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean, there's a lot of consolidation right now in healthcare where big practices are buying up the smaller ones for
Yep.
economies of scale and efficiencies, and centralizing data is a big reason why a lot of the consolidation is happening. So that is an opposite effect going on right now, pushing in the opposite direction of, doctors not becoming entrepreneurs because they're getting bought up as part of these large healthcare systems. So that's happening. But Amazon's doing this as well. They're trying to move it into their Prime membership. They acquired a company, I think it's called the One Health or something along those lines, and then they looped it into Amazon Prime for a little bit extra fee. And so this is definitely a model that I think people are getting used to. It's more like this subscription model, but now it's for healthcare. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Medical loot boxes for granny.
Yeah.
Oh,
There is a lot of it out there. It's growing. It's growing exponentially. But if it works, that tells me the government will eventually step in and screw something up,
I wonder if that won't be the case.
because you're basically cutting it. You're basically stealing the lunch from the insurance company,
Right,
Yeah.
and that can only happen so long.
yeah.
Until they really it really gets their attention and they say, oh, well, let's do something
So,
about it.
if whether the insurance companies, start attacking it, or whether we get to single payer, one of the two will, you won't eliminate it, but I think you will shrink it back some.
Yeah. See that.
Mhm.
I could really see that. Yeah, I came across this other one today, and it's like a group now. So it's like they're forming their own multi practice.
Mhm.
But they're all DPCs.
Guilds are coming back. We're seeing that
Yeah.
in other industries too, but it's
Oh, really?
interesting to see, yeah. Because when you think of guilds outside of like actors and screenwriters, it seems like a very archaic system. But
Mhm.
I'm seeing that more and more. I've even heard some people talk about getting collective insurance as more like industry guilds rather than just winging it. So
I wonder if that's the next, you see the docs doing that. I wonder if now you'll see some insurances doing
that'd be interesting. Yeah,
it. Yeah.
very plausible.
No, nothing more frustrating than having something, semi-urgent. You really need to get seen about it, and you call your doctor up and he says, well, we can take you about September.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably not going away anytime soon.
No, that's not, but
And
absolutely.
then don't forget all the approvals that you need for insurance to cover those procedures and that.
Exactly.
So they certainly don't make it easy. It's interesting because I think value-based care is kind of the direction that a lot of hospitals want to go into because it improves patient compliance and interest in patient outcomes. But to your point, that it's really difficult to keep track of all of the acquisitions that are happening.
I think part of the issue is that the government relied on insurance companies to impose additional regulation on healthcare. And if you start getting away from the regulations that the insurance company imposes on you, then you start getting into what they would deem to be unregulated healthcare. Like, you've seen a huge crackdown on pain clinics.
Mhm.
I think things like semaglutide, those kind of things are next, because they're being abused by a lot of these little concierge programs.
Mhm.
Interesting.
That's true. Hadn't thought about that. And that could be their way in to kind of crack down on the concierge medicine world.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
Hmm.
Well, I'm glad we landed on this one because medical topic, because now we can easily segue into our featured inventor tonight. You got it. All right. So tonight we have with us Gina Adams, and Gina is the CEO of Wearology. Am I saying that right, Gina?
Absolutely.
All right, good deal, good deal. And you, I met you the first time up in Michigan. You were doing a product pitch for the Michigan Inventors Coalition meeting up there, and I was actually on the panel. And I remember when you wheeled this thing in just almost effortlessly and set it up almost effortlessly. I was won over the minute I saw that because I thought, wow, this is a game changer. So anyway, Gina, just tell us a little bit about you and your product, and just a little bit about your story, and we'll pull up a video to share.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us and for everybody attending this evening. I'm Gina Adams, the founder and CEO of Wearology, and we develop assistive devices to help people with disabilities regain levels of independence and self-care so that we can stay at home and age in place and have dignity. My stepfather had Parkinson's, which really inspired myself as a product developer to go into this space. And it's been really a rewarding and exciting journey from our initial adaptive dressing aids to addressing some of the issues that were highlighted during the pandemic with regards to immobility and isolation and quarantine. And so that's why our woman-owned certified business was awarded a contract to collaborate with Veterans Health Administration clinicians to develop a tool that helps increase access to mobility.
Wow, wow. And I'm going to pull up a video real quick, and we'll take a look at this because this is just cool as all get out. And everybody tell me if they can hear it okay when I start. I don't think we got sound. Hang on. We're about to fix this. There we go.
My name is Therese Jamison. I'm the founding director of Lawrence Technological University's Bachelor of Science in Nursing program. We know that people need to get up to feel better. They need to have mobility to decrease their lengths of stay in the hospital. Portable parallel bars are going to be something that all hospitals will want to utilize to really change how healthcare is delivered. They are simple to use and will ultimately change the outcomes for our patients.
That's cool. That is just amazing. You been playing this other one, Gina?
If you want to, or we could pause for a minute
Okay,
and
sure,
talk
sure.
about the beauty
Yeah,
of the simplicity of the tool and how that came about. But
tell us how did you come up with the idea?
there was a call to action by skilled nursing clinicians that had patients suffering from 14 days of quarantine during the pandemic, and they just did not have the proper tools to help them stand. And the unfortunate consequences of immobility include pressure sores and blood clots, respiratory issues, muscle atrophy, and more. So it was that initial call to action. We're an altruistic social venture company trying to address large issues. And so we came up with a napkin sketch idea and presented it at a Challenge America competition that was sponsored by the VA.
Wow. Wow. And I love the fact that you can pull this just right into a patient room. Because I mean, yeah, isn't that where you see a lot of things like falls and just issues?
Right. So there's the current cost in patient hospital falls is over $34 billion to our hospitals and our providers. And so because of risk assessments, even though we know early mobility and getting people moving is so important, unfortunately, because of the accident fall prone, we're leaving patients immobile. And that's why our tool was specifically designed to be that bridge between your dependent electronic lifts like Hoyer lifts and Arjos that are great for transporting patients, but they don't provide an opportunity for patients to actually train and have physical therapy. And then the walkers that we're familiar with are simply unstable. And so through risk assessment, that's where the problem lies.
So what was the hardest part of the journey for you?
It's still going, Don. It's never ending. What do you mean the hardest part? Each phase. Well, there's all these great phases, but yeah, it's been exciting because we, again, just the contract and working with the VA from a small startup's perspective was an incredible opportunity and challenge. We're based in Southeast Michigan. We're in Southfield, Michigan. Lawrence Tech University, Centropolis Accelerator is kind of the program that we've worked through that helped us identify amazing world-class engineers and prototype houses that would work with startups. And so that was an initial challenge right there, because of course, as you can imagine, living in Michigan with the big three automotive, costs of engineers and development is extremely high. But the VA does pride themselves in purchasing products that are made in the US. And so we've always been committed for job creation and just pride in my state of Michigan to manufacture here. So our manufacturer is located in Sterling Heights. But that was kind of just that initial challenge, right? But working with subject matter experts. So I'm a product developer. I'm not a clinician. And so it was so vital to have that input with clinicians who are our frontline heroes, right? And they're the ones that were facing time constraints. And eventually this product really was designed to help improve staff efficiencies and safety. And they report feeling more secure because now if you're working, for example, with like traumatic brain injury or stroke patient, clinicians can focus specifically on stabilizing the patient and not having to hold on to the walker. So it's there's a lot of hurdles, but we'll start with our first challenge was to develop parallel bars that are traditionally stationary and often cemented to the floor, and to actually create a foldable device that's on wheels to transfer therapy directly to the patient's bedside, eliminating those risky transfers and long transports to a gym, which can take up to an hour, and the patient's often fatigued by the time they get there. So we've kind of reversed and really improved patient care delivery.
Wow. So what do you think helped you the most through your whole process?
A sense of humor, can I say that?
Yeah.
I mean, any entrepreneur out there understands the trials and tribulations, and just, once we identified the market and, we're looking at not only hospital acute care, but of course, skilled nursing facilities. You have outpatient rural health that has limited access, but patients that are challenged to stand and need these devices. And of course, home health care is where we see the largest opportunity because, of course, having therapy in the convenience and privacy of your home is desirable. So these are very large markets that we are penetrating, and you know, as an entrepreneur, we take it week by week with the incredible successes and fortunate positive feedback that we are getting from our customers.
Wow. Excellent. That's great. That's wonderful. And any questions from anybody else?
The chat's full of comments, but it's really just talking about what a good product it is and little chit chat, this and that.
Curious what kind of intellectual property you find in there.
Yeah, so for all you entrepreneurs, you can appreciate that we filed our utility patent over a year ago, and I'm just casually waiting here as that gets executed. This hopefully, you know, that's what we hear. Q2, so this year. But we are moving forward in new developments and submitting an NIH SBIR grant this year. So as we discussed earlier in this panel, the importance of incorporating generative AI in terms of patient care and delivering the best outcomes. And so we're so excited to be able to kind of move our product into that new space. And it's an exciting time for us for sure.
What's the biggest piece of advice you could give someone who's new to entrepreneurship?
I would discourage selling into the medical space. The procurement channel in terms of sales funnel is extremely long. Hospitals like to buy from existing vendors, so distribution is huge. We just onboarded Medline, and so we're very excited to have such a reputable distribution partner. Which is critical to getting your patient in front of the clinicians that we want to help. But yeah, the biggest challenge really is visibility and marketing. We all, as inventors, have incredible solutions because we're all suffering from it. Like I said, I wouldn't be here if I did not witness the impact of Parkinson's on my father, and then that ripple effect on caregivers. And we're all in that. I heard a great podcast today. Like at the end of the day, we're all sitting here in this boat. And guess what? We all have a finite space on this planet. And so how do we want to end those days? And by making, I think, healthcare more accessible and personalized and being able to be treated at home where I want to stay is desirable. And so that's what drives our company.
So you can purchase this for your home?
It is available. Our retail is $6,100, and that's really, we're targeting hospitals right now for acute care, ICU, where they're experiencing patient falls that cost over $15,000 per incidence. And the fact that early mobility shows shortening length of stay by 1 to 4 days in an acute care or ICU setting, you know, that's $30,000 in itself. So we're penetrating by hitting these large institutions that understand the value of early mobility and home health. We'll roll that out in a couple of years of different iterations of the product, and so that we can meet the demands. And our product, it's physical rehabilitation, so parallel bars, for everybody out there who's looking at different inventions. It's important to understand we're a physical therapy device, so we are not covered by Medicare or Medicaid. There's no CPT code. And that's something we're navigating. And it's a double-edged sword. It's great because we're a FDA Class 1 non-exempt. So we have stringent warranty and customer policies, but the design controls as a spec developer are on our manufacturer, who are ISO certified. So there's some interesting, and we could talk a whole episode on that. There's some interesting barriers there, but if you're looking at inventions, the medical space, because it's so dominated by the Cardinal Health and Hillroms and the layers of red tape, for lack of better words, I would stray away from any FDA nonsense if you could. We just have to be with the government, and I can't avoid it. So I'm here, and we're working through that.
Yeah, that's I completely identify with that. In my old business, we made products for the especially products for the pathology laboratory industry, and that was literally in the clinical lab. That was the lowest hanging fruit. That was the one you could get into if you weren't, a multinational, with tons of R&D and lots of FDA dollars. So,
Yeah.
oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
Oh, congrats. It's phenomenal.
So if anyone's interested in learning more, or they want to get one in their hospital and call up and complain that they don't have one yet, where would they find you? Where would they find you at?
Thank you. Yeah. So our company website is wareology.com. So we develop hardware, WAREOLOGIE, which is for independence and empowerment. But, we are available on different e-commerce platforms like the Rehab Mart or J&B Medical, as well as these larger distribution channels now, such as Medlog. With the government, despite us being contracted to develop this in collaboration with their physical therapists, the government works in silos. So I was misled because we had a 100-unit purchase order. So I wasn't totally misled. I was like, okay, this looks great. We're going to move forward. We're going to commercialize this. And yet working with the government is slow. There's a lot of procurement barriers to that. So we decided, hey, we're going to go straight for the private sectors. And we have been able to get a foot in the door with like Kaiser Permanente, Ascension Health, Common Spirit, and these early adapters, and identify champions. And so your best source to getting into these hospitals is finding a champion who has that pain. I mean, when people call, I'm like, why are you ordering this? They're like, well, we have staffing shortages and we have patients suffering that they need to move, but they're connected to a respiratory monitoring device, and we can't get them to a gym. And so now they're getting bed sores and blood clots and all sorts of unfortunate compounding issues. In fact, a third of patients at discharge have new complications that they acquired during their hospital stay. It's incredible. And so early mobility, again, there's hundreds of studies. It's just now we've provided that bridge tool between electronic tools and your walkers. And so the beautiful thing is we've introduced a tool that everybody understands, parallel bar treatment. So as you're developing and introducing new technology, you have to have that familiarity. And clinicians are like, well, we love parallel bars. Our patients, they put all their weight on the parallel bars instead of holding onto me. And so it's a give and take. We just had the intuition to make it foldable and on wheels and add that proprietary lightweightness with the help of our engineers. So
fantastic. Well, Gina, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. And any other questions in the chat?
Not in relation to this, but just a lot of people commenting positively on it.
thank you.
I've got my
I really
hand up
appreciate
there.
you guys sharing.
Oh, sorry, Larry. I didn't see you there. Go for it.
Is this something that an outpatient therapist would bring to somebody's home after knee replacement surgery?
It would be ideal through a durable medical equipment company to just bring into the home while they're bringing in and leave there for the 8 to 10 weeks of that therapy. And so we are looking for pilot partners for that, because that is exactly, there's nothing like this in home health. Hospitals, they can kind of figure things out, but for home health, that's where we see the largest opportunity. And so, Larry, our device is half the weight of your traditional balancing bars, but it's 68 pounds. It fits in the back of my Subaru. We give demonstrations all the time. I carry it in and out, but it's 5 feet long. So because you want to give people the opportunity to take a couple steps in hospitals. They're using it in activities of daily living to use a commode instead of a bedpan, which provides some dignity as well as accessibility and a lot easier to treat the patient. And, the caregivers and the patients are really relieved to see such a tool available because, bedpans, it's messy.
No, makes sense. Oof. Yeah, I think the dignity component is just a huge intrinsic selling point, because it's not really something you can put an ascribed value to. Yeah, and actually Celeste wants to know, have you attempted to reach out to retirement homes and retirement communities? I could imagine there might be some.
Celeste, that's who we designed this for, because during the pandemic, we were researching how people with disabilities were disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. And that's why we created this. Unfortunately, skilled nursing centers are treated by outside agencies that service those skilled nursing. So this is something that we've all learned. Like, again, we've been doing this for 3 years now, and it's a learning curve and a journey that I'm happy to share with everybody on the call today, because it's not easy. And so skilled nursing, while we know we can help people and we've been to these facilities here in Michigan, the clinicians said, we tried to pull a 10-foot set of parallel bars into the patient's room because they were going to lose their insurance before we could even get them to treatment. But they had protocols, and the patient couldn't leave their room, and then they couldn't get him moving. So then they ended up just sending him home disabled. I mean, it's just, it's pretty crazy. So the solution, despite the beauty and the simplicity, which was intentional, clinicians are setting this up in less than a minute. There's literally, it's designed to be intuitive because we know that they have such limited time. And so now we're getting those reports that we can do so much more with less, because they can independently treat their patients instead of have to co-treat. And they can do a lot more with balancing and squatting and gait training that they could have not accomplished with the lifts or walkers.
Interesting.
But I would love to get a pilot into a skilled nursing facility. So if there's anybody out there, we do offer 10-day free evaluations because we believe in the product. I'm not a salesperson. That was my other loss. And so for all of you entrepreneurs out there, great ideas. At the end of the day, we're all salespeople. We have to sell the product, whether you're selling and licensing the idea itself, or for us, we chose the path of illustrating that consumer demand so that we can have a higher exit at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Gina, thank you again. We really, really appreciate having you on. And if anyone's interested, wearology.com is in the chat. So be sure and check that out. And it's a great product, Gina. I am so excited for you. I can't wait to see this in everywhere that needs it. And there's a lot of places that need it. So
Thank you. What a
Yeah.
great opportunity to see everybody, and what a fun Friday night. Much more fun than working. So I appreciate it, everybody. It's great to hear all these great, I mean, my list right now of follow-ups is super huge. So what a great show. Thank you so much, Don, for having us.
All right,
Thank
well,
you.
let's
That was
everybody give her a hand.
Yeah.
She's done a wonderful job. And really appreciate it. Congratulations on how far you've taken
Yeah.
and where you're at. So, all right, okay. Any other questions in the chat, Leo?
Most of it has been more conversational. So we
Mhm.
only have one question directly in relation to the live stream itself, and that is one such individual was curious. They have a toy idea and they don't know what kind of protection they need or
Hmm.
what their next step ought to be. And hope they're still in the YouTube room because we got two means of finding that out. One, Jim,
Yeah.
what do you think about a toy idea and protecting it?
I'll give you the traditional attorney answer. It all depends.
Yeah.
If there's something novel and unique, it could be in how it does what it does, or it could be a unique aspect of it. But a lot of toys are covered by design patents.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A lot, to some degree, also have copyright associated with it for like games. But a utility patent usually don't see for toys unless it's just something that's just really out of the box.
Sure.
But that being said, design patents are a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably would have been another question if I was thinking about doing this. Is it cheaper to get a design patent?
It is cheaper. They aren't as effective as utilities because they just cover the ornamental design. So you can, to some degree, work around it, and that's a shifting line as to how much you have to change something to infringe a design patent. And we're kind of going through that now with one of my cases, but typically it varies anywhere from 50 to 75% change will get you around a design patent. But courts have been tending towards the higher end of things, so you really, you really do need to do more than just, tweak it to get around the design pad. If it still looks like it's derived from the original product, so
Makes sense. Yeah.
Interesting. Is trademarks a good route to go as well?
trademark will protect your branding. Trademark can also protect other aesthetic parts of it, like color,
Mm.
sound. Like Harley Davidson has a trademark on the sound of a Harley.
Oh.
John Deere has a trademark on the color green
Yeah.
with farm equipment. So anything that associates something with your product, with your company, you can ultimately try to protect and carve that out for yourself.
Doesn't
Well-
T-Mobile have a trademark on like the smell of T-Mobile stores, like the ozone aroma? Am I misremembering?
I think that was a thing at
Yeah,
one
I
time.
swear I think there was an aromatic.
Well, maybe it was
Trademark.
Verizon stores.
Yeah, it was one of them, one of the
It
big
was the
three.
weirdest thing though. It
Huh.
was like they trademarked the smell,
Yeah.
but I never remember the smell of
Yeah.
going into a
I
store,
associate it with
unless it's a
ozone.
bad one.
Yeah.
You can trademark smells. It's very difficult to trademark smells, and you have to have 5 years of continuous use where you don't really
Our
have any
stores will smell this
competition
way
for
for
it.
5 years.
Yeah, I do have one client that's working towards a fragrant kind of trademark, but it takes a while to get there, and then you got to really justify it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's odd. And how would you prove someone had infringed?
Yeah.
Hey, Larry, you should get your hot dog bouquet patented.
With the smell of hot dogs, trademark.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, to whomever asked that question though, it sounds like you're just getting started and shameless self-promotion. We have 2 free meetings every month. So go to kyinventors.org. You don't have to like join as a full member. Come to the free meetings, see what you can learn. Every December we cover toys, generally speaking, like specifically. So that's my 2 cents. And we also have a question from Roy, so have at it, Roy.
Oh wow, that was a bit ago. I apologize.
Oh,
Um,
sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
on
was.
my Chromebook, the chat, it doesn't go chronological.
Yeah, no, if you don't
We're gonna
mind,
get
Miss
Neil a
Adams,
Mac.
if you don't mind, Miss Adams, I was just thinking, like, I live in South Florida, so the word sue down here is a verb. It's not a noun, right? And so introducing this awesome idea with the liability, like how did you handle that hurdle, like in selling it to companies?
You mean with regards to a liability, that kind of thing?
Yeah, like if you were to sell that to, the hospital, right? And
You
it
won't
not
do a
work
dip
properly. Like, did they
laptop.
require, like, when you were
We conducted product consumer safety physical testing for the
mhm,
product. That was a very expensive process that tested the product for 5 years of 365 days of continual use so that
okay.
we can stand
Yeah,
behind our
okay.
warranty and
Perfect.
qualify for your
Okay.
initially. I mean, obviously we want that high standard, but we also want to be able to sell into the EU and Canadian healthcare spaces. And so
Right.
that all aligns with just good design practices.
Thank you.
Super expensive though.
Time consuming.
Love to get into your market in Florida though. It's very nice down there versus it's kind of cold and icky in Michigan right now.
Right now's a good time to sell in Florida.
I'm going to come visit you, Roy. Let's do it.
A beautiful
Lot of
house in
medical
Hollywood.
facilities.
Hollywood's a beautiful little city just south of Fort Lauderdale. Bicycle distance to the ocean.
I'm
There you
there.
go. There you go.
I'll see you in Miami. Okay.
I've got a comment here about Gina's comment about the hot dog bouquet. Generally, things created by generative AI are not patentable.
All right.
Now, the implementation of that might be patentable,
Yeah, definitely.
but
If you give us an idea
it would be
generator,
the human implementation
right.
of it rather than general concepts make for really are not patentable things, is my understanding.
That's the beauty of AI, is use as a jumping off point. Yeah. Yeah. How can you take that concept and make it feasible and tenable and yeah.
Just don't let it drive the bus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, all right, guys. Well, this has just been great. Any parting thoughts? Let's go around the room. Yeah, Evan, you got.
I liked what Gina said about sense of humor.
Mm.
I think you got to be able to laugh at yourself as an entrepreneur. I was thinking about this the other day. Is how many times do you look back at optimistic things you said or hoped would happen that turn out to be a disaster or don't turn out the way that you want? And while you're considering those things, you're in the middle of doing it again, despite the fact you feel stupid, and you just have to kind of laugh at yourself and just be optimistic. And sense of humor is huge, because if you don't have that, it's definitely a slog.
Yeah.
And even if you don't feel like laughing about it, you can always say, one of these days we'll look back and laugh about that.
That's right. You don't ever laugh about it at the moment, but about the time you're
Yeah, you can say, remember when we did that? Wasn't that like really, really dumb?
exactly right.
Remember that dumb thing we did? We survived it too. Oh. Final thoughts, Jim.
I guess along a different line, everybody needs to keep their eyes open for the constant change in AI regulation.
Oh.
Europe just adopted formally and unanimously new AI regulations yesterday.
Oh,
And they also established a European-wide office to assist in the implementation of AI startups.
oh,
So Europe tends to kind of lead the US in these areas, so kind of expect these things to happen in the US as well.
interesting.
But privacy concerns, those kind of things were drivers, especially when it comes to AI generated voices and images. But yeah, regulation is rapidly changing. I think you're going to start to see some movement and some delineation between what makes an AI invention patentable and what doesn't.
Interesting.
So to some degree, they're going to have to eventually protect this stuff.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, protect what stuff and what exactly?
The use of AI to even run through thousands of calculations for, say, physical chemistry, or you can, instead of running years worth of experiments, you can run a set based on expected outcomes and potential components, and you can achieve a product in a fraction of the time you could with a regular R&D laboratory. The key is there still has to be somebody at the front end saying, these are the things we want to look at. Here's how we want to do it. So the distinction comes between those who say, well, AI invented it. No, it's just like any other computer program. You know, the query changes and the algorithms are different, but the precursor, the original idea, has to come from a human being,
Makes sense.
at least at this point.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't change.
Yeah.
It gets tricky. The hard part, from what I understand about these large language models right now, is that they created the algorithms and the models to create an output, but they actually don't know how to explain the output. So they created the technology and they don't know how to basically point to exactly why the technology behaves in the way that it does. It's an emergent technology right now that they can't say exactly why it spit out an answer.
I wonder if any tech has ever been developed that could be described that way before, because I doubt it. It sounds surreal. It'd be like asking Henry Ford, so how does it work? I have no idea. I just bang some metal together and it does stuff. Yeah.
And there's like the hardware architecture, and then there's the algorithms that are software. And so it's the mixture of those two things that have enabled the large language model, but it's still a black box. They're working really hard to fix that. So to your point, it's going to be hard to have really detailed regulation or kind of patentable outputs from these models, because there's no way of right now explaining this. The whole field called explainable AI that is emerging, that they're trying to figure these answers out.
I think a lot of it's in a state where we saw neural networks back in the late 80s, early 90s. And I used to play with those things because we used to do a lot of modeling of lubricant systems with really weird polymers that were non-Newtonian, did weird things. And some of that was deemed a black box back then. We'll eventually, I think, get to the point where we understand what causes the outcome we're seeing, but we just got to get there first.
Yeah, I think we'll get there. It's just there's so much data going through these neural nets, and it's just hard to pinpoint what correlations and causations there were.
I think they're going to have to break it down to smaller data sets, more digestible data sets to see, going into it, where those Easter eggs are and how it turns out on the other end, to get an idea of what's really going on in the black box.
That's a big trend right now, is smaller models, is training much smaller models on very specific tasks versus
a lot of products are coming out with that right now. We've seen a lot in the legal industry.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot in chemistry. And when you deal with more specific models, the context changes, but it produces a better result as long as the one driving query knows what they're doing.
Mm,
If you don't know how to ask, you're going to get an answer that may or may not be accurate or
Sure.
may not make any sense.
yeah, I've seen that a lot. People complain about AI. It's like, well, your prompts are kind of the underlying real issue.
I think that's what it comes down to, because
Yeah.
when you're building a query, whether it's for a database or whether it's for AI, you have to understand how the system's going to handle the query.
Right.
This is why, there's been a huge uptick in people that used to be database administrators and managers and would create these schema for databases, big complex databases, who for a long time couldn't find work. And all of a sudden they're back in demand because they can ask the right question the right way.
Which I would
Yeah,
not have
very,
thought of that.
yeah. Huh.
There's another big question about AI, and that is the owners, the producers, the programmers, the traders, all may put their own biases in to that AI. And, that's one of the things that Elon Musk is talking about in the AI that he's proposing developing, is to take that out of it. I don't know that you can take it out of it. Mistral supposedly has taken some of it out of it. But there's a lot of biases, and you push some interesting questions in it. Like, let's say you ask it how to make black powder, and it may tell you, well, it's illegal, whereas most places it's not illegal. It might tell you it's dangerous. It may refuse. Some of the AIs might tell you how to do it. Yet I could go to Wikipedia, find out how to make black powder in seconds, or a dozen other places.
Yeah, those are the most fun prompts though, because if it does say you can't, you can always say something like, well, I'm terrified I'll accidentally make black powder, so could you tell me what not to do? And it'll
Give us some examples of what you can't do.
Yeah,
Sounds like you've been
yeah.
experimenting here.
Well, I'll give you a good example. In Heinlein's book, Farnham's Freehold, he told about using iodine and ammonia to make an explosive to blow up a rock. And so I asked one of the AI agents, is it okay for me to store my iodine and ammonia? And it came back and told me, no, you can't do that because you're going to make an explosive, which isn't totally true. I'm only going to make an explosive if I take the precipitate and dry it out. Until I do that, it's meaningless. But once I do, it's a very powerful explosive. So
Let's not
that
get,
was kind of
Larry,
a
let's not
backdoor.
get kicked off of YouTube, okay?
that's a good point.
Don't get me kicked off YouTube.
Oh,
Well, to quote The Simpsons, I for one welcome our cybernetic overlords. But if you don't know The Simpsons, you probably won't get that. But at any rate, any other final thoughts? George, you got anything?
Nope.
George is not. George is just doing a slamming job tonight on the cameras. So
I have a question. Who controls that generative data? Who, if it's all being pulled in the cloud, who's controlling that, and how do you sell that data? Does anyone have that answer? Evan, got that?
It's whatever institution put the model together. OpenAI put their model together. There are some more open source models out there. So it's whoever put it together. And first you've got the large language model that you take a whole bunch of stuff and you go through and use lots and lots of computational power with thousands of GPUs and R's, and use megawatts of electricity to generate. Then you go through and you have people actually fine tune it and make it come out with some of the responses that you would expect to have happen. Yeah, and by choosing which material you give it, or possibly even giving a priority with that material, you can build in the biases you want. Explore climate change and whether there is more than one camp on human-caused climate change with AI, and see what you get. Explore the question of how you determine who is a man and who is a woman, and see what kind of responses you get.
Larry, you're really trying to get me thrown off of YouTube tonight, aren't you? Larry, please don't get me thrown off of YouTube.
Is he violating community standards here?
Yeah, probably several times by now.
Did you save the chat?
I think Evan may have a more a safer response for us tonight.
No, that was a good answer. Larry definitely hit it on the head. I mean, there's various sources that this data is being pulled from. There's open source libraries that anybody can go download and use to train a model, and then there's proprietary models or proprietary data that goes into models that OpenAI is leveraging their partnership with Microsoft for. That was a big part of their Microsoft partnership. Was Microsoft has a ton of proprietary data from years and years of their software, and so they leveraged a lot of that. Amazon has a unique data set with product reviews, and then obviously Facebook and Twitter have their own unique data sets. So it's a mixture of, like Larry said, proprietary data, but also there's a really great open source community that really cares about that question, which is, where is this data coming from, and is it transparent, and can we trust it? And so there's a lot of open source advocates that are creating data sets for people to use in their own models and create models very quickly, which is a exciting trend that I hope continues. And because you don't necessarily want these to be fully proprietary, you want ways to be introducing transparency and trust. And I think you need open source communities for that, especially with AI.
I put a link in the chat, poe.com, POE.com. Edgar Allan Poe is his last name. And it's kind of a gateway to a whole bunch of different AIs. And it will even give you 2 or 3 questions into some of the AIs that you might have to pay for.
Yeah.
All right.
Interesting.
Thanks, Larry. Appreciate that.
Could you save chat?
Yes.
I can't on Chromebook turn it on.
I think I can do that.
When you say save it, where does it go?
It saves as a
Saves it
notebook
on
file
your-
on your
on your-
computer.
File on your computer.
Yeah.
Downloads?
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, I think that makes Friday's Inventor Friday in the books.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Watch your email inboxes. If you are not getting emails from us, sign up, kyinventors.org. Reach out to us, sign up for a meeting. Our next open meeting is going to be on March 5th. Stay tuned. We got some really cool stuff coming up this year. So thank you all for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. Again, big thank you to Gina Adams with Wearology, the portable parallel bars, and everybody else tonight.
Yeah.
And of course our
Thanks for joining us.
great
Jim.
folks here. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for being here tonight, and everybody have a great weekend.
Have a good one, everyone.
Fantastic.
Enjoyed it.
Everyone.
Good.